what I'd like to do is spend about an hour and go over my reservation project with you. And hopefully if you have questions, I'm not saying that that'll answer all your questions. All right. I will tell you too, this is on an unrelated note, but it's regarding the next class. Didn't know whether to show you this or not, but I'm going to anyway. This is what I sent Terry Prindle this morning. And from what I hear, he may be in meetings all day, which doesn't help me much, but I understand because that's his job. Good morning, Terry. Here is where things stand for me right now with the Android emulator. What I did was I went into the SDK manager, and everything that it said was not installed, I installed it. I didn't give a rip what it was. I just highlighted everything and installed all of it. All right. Then I went into the existing emulator manager, and I removed all the existing emulators I had, because Terry recommended that I go and set up an emulator like this. Okay, so I did, except the only thing it would not let me do was this SD card. It would not let me set that up to a gig. So I left that blank. All right, this is what I've been doing this morning. So as it says, I left the SD card blank and saved the emulator setting. Then I started the emulator. And when I did, I got this screen that literally just hung there. I left it there for 20 minutes to see if it would come up. And it just hung there like that. So eventually I clicked the close button. All right. And you know how you have to stop the emulator basically to start the emulator. So I did that. Then I created yet another new blank Hello World project and attempted to run it. And when I did, I got these errors, which I'd never seen this error before. Read-only file system. All right. So I stopped Android. Literally, totally got out of Android. Just I shouldn't have even said I stopped. I should have said I stopped Eclipse and restarted. All right. I created a new Hi World project. I restarted the emulator. I ran that project, and when I did, I got these errors. All right. So I went up and I started looking at one of these errors that's here. This one right there. And it says, oh, if you've got that file in your library, that jar file, get rid of it, which didn't seem to make a hell of a lot of sense to me. Because if you're supposed to get rid of it, why was it there to begin with? All right. But when I did get rid of it and ran it again, I got different errors. So I've tried this umpteen different ways. He said he got his to work. I'm hoping he can come down here before 1 o'clock and share his expertise with me. Or I can show him what I did, and we can try to figure out something. Yes. I don't even know what version. What you can do, if you want to know the version of Java you are running, you can literally, when you're in the virtual desktop, you can go in here and bring up a command prompt, and you're supposed to be able to say Java minus version. And that's supposed to tell you the version that you're running. So we're running 1.8.0_25. All right, that should be the version. So like I said, that's everything. So until he gets back to me, I said, I am now stuck. I realize you're very busy, but any advice you could provide would be most appreciated. I'm lecturing from 10 to 11, but I'm free from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and the Android class starts at 1 p.m. Thanks in advance. So I'm hoping he gets back to me. I went up to the office to see him, and they told me he was with somebody, and they didn't know how long he'd be. And they said that they knew he had at least one meeting today. Kevin told me that, one of the help desk guys. He didn't know when the meeting was, who it was with, etc. He doesn't have his schedule. He only has Mary's schedule. So hopefully we can come up with something by 1 o'clock, because this is getting really bad. It's not his fault. It's no one's fault. It's just the way that it is. I guess if it's someone's fault, it's my fault. All right. So what I'm going to do is just bring up my copy. My project is called Reservation. Again, this is the one that's regarding, this is kind of the catch-all, so it's got everything for homework number 2 in it. All right, so if I come up to the default page, make sure I'm setting that as my start page and run it. What I want to do is show you this, and if you had problems here, you're going to have to let me know where, and I'll show you the code, and I'll show you what I did. And I know this has been frustrating a lot of people. It wasn't the intention behind the assignment. And I did tell John, I said, if there's anything, though, in a way, it's good because it caused you to really take a good look at this stuff. All right. Now, none of the accommodation stuff does anything. I think you know that. None of the services stuff does anything. None of the activity stuff does anything. The About Us has got a history which is under construction, directions which is under construction, and come on, that's the site map. All right. So the only one we care about is this reservation request. So if you come in here and you do all this stuff, notice, for example, if I put yesterday's date in here and I try to move off, that's what it should say, correct? All right. But if I say tomorrow's date, everything should be hunky-dory. All right. Special requests, non-smoking. All right. I don't even know if you can get smoking in hotels anymore. I don't care. All right. So I'm going to come in here. Put in all of my information. All right, let's right now set it just me to 1 queen. Submit. There's everything. Okay? Now, I don't like this, so I want to modify my request. I don't want it Jeff, I want it to be Jeffrey. And since I'm staying by myself, why not just sit there and change the bed type to king? So I've changed from Jeff to Jeffrey, and I changed the type from 2 queens, or 1 queen rather, to king. Make that change. There's Jeffrey, there's king, and I don't have to modify. Let's modify the request one more time. Non-smoking, preferred. All right. Run it, submit. Now it's non-smoking, preferred. Confirm request. Okay. Now is that where people were having problems? I'm asking because I don't know. Yes. Okay, so we'll take a look at that in just a second. Does the rest of the stuff that you're being asked to do make sense? Is that where people are getting the hang up? I mean, is everything else pretty much working? All right, so let's take a look at that. So I'm going to just stop the run here. All right, and I don't know, is that in the confirm? Let's look at both. We'll look in the confirm, and we'll look in the default. All right, there's no code in there. Here's the code that I have in the confirm. First of all, on app code, we've got reservation. We got all this stuff. I think you were given that. Am I right? Okay. All right. So as far as I'm concerned, we don't have to look at that anymore. Cool? All right. And in the confirm, this is what I have. All right. I created a reservation object called reservation of type reservation. So what I just showed you. All right. Then in page load, I set reservation equal to the session variable, but I made sure by taking it and casting it into type reservation that it would be the right type. All right. I believe they showed you that in the book also. All right, then we called the display reservation. And again, ideally at least, that was supposed to do all the stuff. You know, basically it's copying everything from the reservation object into the appropriate labels. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. And there's the when you click the confirm, that's what you should get. So it sounds like you've got all that stuff. That's not where the problem is, correct? All right. All right. And I'm trying to remember where that stuff is, because well, there's no code in my default page. And there's no code in the about page. It's been a while since I've looked at this. All right, it's not going to be in directions or history or map. It might be in here, yeah. There we go. All right. So this is in the request.aspx.cs. And I'm sorry, I guess I told you guys to call it reservation. I just made it request. Sorry about that. That shouldn't matter one way or the other. All right, but when you look in here, there's all the code. So let's just take a look at it one thing at a time. Okay. So what we've done at the top is we've again created the new reservation object as we did before. Then in page load, does this now make sense to people if it's not a post back? Do people understand what that means? I'm asking because I don't know. Okay, no. I mean, I know, but I'm saying I don't know if you know it or not. All right. If we take a look at the request page, and we look at it in design mode, the idea is if we make any change on this page and we click the submit button, it has to be posted back to the server. All right? And the only time really that it doesn't have to be posted back to the server, in fact, is there a time? I guess if we had the page up there and we went to another page and then came back again and weren't changing anything. All right? But any time we are, in essence, changing anything that's on that page, it will be a postback. All right? So if it's not a postback, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, is there anything in the reservation object? And if there is, we're copying it over again. We're grabbing everything that's in our session variable and copying it into that variable right here. And then again, we're calling that this.display reservation. So what we're saying is, if we're not posting it back, just fill up the form with all of the values that we previously had that were saved in our session variable. Does that make sense? All right. Otherwise, in here, if the session variable is not null, all right, this is just setting some defaults. So we're setting the date to today's date, and we're setting the default to king. It doesn't have to be king. It could have been anything. All right. Then in display reservation, that's where, as you can see, most of the stuff is happening here. All right. So again, what are we doing? Well, we're filling up the arrival date, the departure date, and the number of people based on what we had in our session variable. Okay? All right. Then we have to check and see which one of these things they chose for a bed type. Again, those are our options. And you know this kind of stuff already, but we can set it up. Now, when we run the program and we physically run it, all right, and you've got your reservation request, notice by default, king is set to the default. I just showed you where that code was. You could set it again to anything you want, but it is quite possible that somebody is going to change it for whatever reason. All right, so if they have, check and make sure that the right one is checked. That's all. Okay. Then take everything else basically that you have over here, special request, first name, last name, email, and phone, and copy from the session variables, the associated session variables, fill up those text boxes. So what those lines are doing right there is they're filling in this and this and this and this, etc. Does that make sense? All right. All right. And then the preferred method, same kind of thing. We're just grabbing the value that was in there, which is pretty simple because it was only email and phone. All right. Then when we submit, this is what we're doing. Now we're copying it from the other way, because the idea is when we submit, we've made changes on the form. Since we've made changes to the form, we want to change what's in our session variable or what's in our session object. So previously we were copying stuff from the session object to the text boxes or the drop down or whatever. Now we're going in the other direction. Does that make sense? Because we're submitting, so we're making a change. All right. So we're converting the dates over And then we're checking the days. And why are we doing that? Well, we talked about this before. This is a way of doing this, but what we want to make sure here is that you're not booking a date that's earlier than the date, that your departure date isn't earlier than your arrival date. Does that make sense? Same kind of thing in here, because they may have changed what were in the check boxes. So we're changing again what's in the session variable based on that. If they had no request, we're just putting none in there. Otherwise, we're putting in the request. All we're checking for in there is there anything at all in there? That's it. Not what it is. I mean, they could have written total gibberish, and we'd have no idea what that means. All right. Then we're doing the same thing with the first name, last name, email, phone number, and drop-down list. We're, again, copying that stuff over. Okay. After we do that, now we're taking everything in that reservation object and copying it back to our session variable, and then we're redirecting them to the confirm page. Does that all make sense? The clear stuff, I don't even know, do we have to talk about that? Does that all make sense to people? Yes. What it's doing is, back when we're in the request page, all right, when we come in here, we're telling it to display the reservation. And what that's doing again is that's going in and it's grabbing everything that we had just, right now it's not posted back because we're going back to the page after we've confirmed, and all it's doing is it's taking right there and it's copying everything then from the reservation session object back into the appropriate text boxes or whatever. Now, did that help? Does that make sense? I'm not going to even deny that it's confusing. And if I had it to do again, I probably wouldn't have put as much length on the assignment as I did. All right, well then I would say then just forget about it, turn it in the way it is. I won't take off for that. I'll look at it and see if I can figure out why it wasn't returning it. Okay. Yeah, and I'm leaving this up there right now so you can go back and look at the tape. I mean, is there anything else you need to see? Do you need to, I mean, I don't think anybody needs to see the ASPX file. But again, this was the code that's in the request page right there. So you can pause this and take a look at it if you need to. And if it's not being posted back, we're not doing anything. All right, here's the display reservation where, again, we're copying it from the session variables into our local objects. All right, and then there's our submit where we're going the other way. Okay. Anything else that you need to see? Because I'll be glad to put something else up here if it'll help. Kelly? Mike? No? You're good? Okay. All right. That's all that I had then, yes. Are you going in and creating the XML file? Well, in the book, they showed you how to create a sitemap. Well, what I'm saying is if for some reason the sitemap didn't work, and it should, because that's the one I used, all right, you should be able to go back and create your own. So let's see once. Let's do this. question was in the Joe's, can you just use JavaScript to do the reset? Yeah, I probably would do it. That's the way I did it. All right. Yes. Well, ideally, we're going to have a full class today in there, and there's a few things that we've got to go over. All right. Did I give you the sitemap? Is that one of these files? What is that? The history? No. Right here. Okay. So let me grab this one. And not even do it like that. Let's do it like this. Okay, I've got a web.sitemap here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to change that name of that to web2.sitemap, which is going to screw everything up, and that's okay. All right. And then I'm going to come back over to here, right mouse click, add existing item, and I'm going to try to grab that right from the P drive to see if there's any mistakes on that file in the P drive. Okay, there's web.sitemap, add. And there's web.sitemap, right? So that hopefully it should be using that one now. Let's run it again. No, of course I hosed it up. What I'm going to do is something I really probably shouldn't do. I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to put it in here for right now. Normally I wouldn't do that, but I'm going to do that anyway. All right. So now I've got web.config and web.sitemap. Hopefully that I made it better, not worse. Or in worst case, it looks just the same way that it did. Yeah, still doesn't like it. Well, let's look at the code. All right. There is the one that I had you copy out of the book, and this is the other one. All right. Looks like that one line might be here. And that's in the one that I have that you don't have. Now, why would that not be in there? I don't know. Literally, I copied my file, so why that one line is not there, I really and truly have absolutely no idea. But I'll take it, copy that line, go back to this one, and paste it in. Now, ideally, at least, they're identical. Yeah. Now, it might be that you need to add that line, because notice that when I added it back, it now worked. So let me show you what that line is. All right. All right, if everybody can listen to this, if you look up here, evidently the sitemap that I gave you has a line missing in it, and that line that's missing in it is the one that's in gray right now. All right, so if you tried doing the sitemap and had problems, or you didn't try doing the sitemap, make sure you add that line into the file. All right, again, it's at the bottom, and it's sitemap URL equal map.aspx, title equals sitemap, description equals display a sitemap. All right. Again, I don't understand. It's not there. I get that. But the point is, what I copied over for you is literally the one that I finished. So why would that line not be there? I don't know, because I haven't changed the file. But it wasn't there. Yeah. It was in mine, but it wasn't in the one we made the copy of, and I don't know why. I have absolutely no idea why. Any other questions, concerns? You know, this is what I look at when I'm grading this stuff, just so you know. And I'll just say this to you right now. I mean, think about this. In the Android class, the majority of your grade will be based on your Java stuff, okay? In the iOS class, and a lot of your grade will be based on that first C assignment. But I am looking to see a few things. I'm looking to see, are people doing the work? All right? And just so you know, too, there's no other way to do it, so I'm looking at things like attendance. I do look every day to see who's here and who's not here. All right? And I realize with some of you, people have to get sick and all sorts of other stuff. I get that. All right? But if if we meet for 17 weeks, which means 34 class sessions, and you're missing 10 of those sessions, to me, would you do that on a job? I think if you did, you probably wouldn't keep your job. All right, unless there were some really extenuating circumstances. All right. Now, Teresa just said, Mike asked this too about the PHP. If you remember, last week in PHP, what I did last week was we were having problems in the Android. So what I did was I gave everybody the PHP assignment, if you remember that. I didn't say, here's a PHP assignment, let's not have class. That said, as Teresa will tell you, there were probably 3 people here when class started. So I decided not to go over it because I'd rather go over it with everybody else here. And then the next couple periods were just lab, so the same thing happened. So today what I'm going to do is go over the assignment, all right, and because you had lab all last week in there, I am going to go over chapter, I think it's 12, it's the chapter, we've got to get into the database thing, all right? And I want to show you, this is still a work in progress, just so you know. In fact, I'm not even going to show it to you. I've got a project that I've been working on that we're going to use with an existing database, all right? So we're going to go over the chapter today. If we do it in an hour, fine, but I don't think we can do it in an hour. Then on Thursday, we're going to write a simple thing as a class. One thing I'm hearing from people is, don't just give us code, make us write something. All right, so I will do that. It won't be a lot, but we'll create a very simple little type of content management system where we'll have a single table, all right, and in that table, we'll be able to do inserts, updates, and deletes using PHP. All right, when I say a single table, a single database table. So that's where we're moving toward. The last assignment that we do in here, we're going to do it as a class. So I'm going to give you the code, all right? But we're going to be doing it and working on it as a class. Does that make sense? All right. Any other questions? That's all that I had.